So next up, we've got Barney Grossman. Barney is a conversion specialist with us at 123. He's been with us for a long time, for 5 years after graduating at, I think it was Brunel University, where he did a placement with us, and they liked the company so much he decided to join and help us out. It's kind of, his role kind of morphs into a combination of marketing and psychology to influence how people behave and what they do on our websites. He's the home run to lunch, you'll be pleased to hear, so lunch is starting to be prepared in the corner. Why this subject is particularly interesting, if I could just share with you a story just from this morning actually on some stats on our own websites. And we have a product that we just launched this week. I won't share with you the detail of it. Same price point, same product, multi-brand across every one of our brands. It's converting at something like 10 to 11% on one brand, 10%-ish on another brand, 7.5% on another one, and 2.5% on another brand. So a big range there, from 2.5% to 11% in conversion, same product, same price point. So the exact detail in the way that you convert your customers makes a big difference. You can just turn the dial that little amount and suddenly have huge increments in your sales revenue on your sites. And Barney is, it's fair to say, an absolute expert in this subject. So very interesting to watch Barney present. So over to you, Barney.
Cool. Thank you very much, Matt. Thank you for the nice introduction. So the title of this talk is going to be How to Convince Your Website Visitors to Buy From You. Matt's pretty much summed up who I am. I started with the company 5 years ago as part of my university degree and kind of didn't really disappear. I enjoyed what I did there, and the role has kind of morphed into what I do now, which is pretty much take responsibility for our website. And by that I mean it's my job to ensure that when we have someone visit our site, when they come to there, they can do what they've come to achieve. And we're going to talk about some of the ways that your website's going to have goals. It's going to fit in with your organisation, your business, and how when they come to your website, we're going to ensure that they do what they want to do, but making sure it's in your interest. The role kind of touches on various aspects of statistics, marketing, online psychology, and we're going to look at how all of these different aspects are included as part of what I do on a daily basis. Now, the overarching field of interest is called user experience. And we're going to touch on really what that is. But I'm going to just first want to find out exactly who everyone is in the room first. So I'm assuming all of you have a website. Cool. Who actually makes money directly through their website? If you could just maybe raise your hands, online shop kind of thing. Okay. And who maybe makes money through a website but indirectly? Maybe it's a sales, a service or something like that. Okay, cool. So most of you. So we're going to, I'll change it around a little bit because it seems to be more of you in the service industry. Maybe some of you have some ideas as to what's stopping people from buying from your website. Anyone have any ideas at all? Oh, in that case, then I guess the presentation is done, if no one has any objections. Okay, so what we're going to look at is some of these objections as to why you might not be aware, but actually why some of your visitors are actually not doing what you want them to. They're not hitting that buy button, or perhaps they're not clicking that contact me button for the interest when you're a service. The discipline is called user experience, and to summarize user experience is this. It's making an unhappy visitor happy. We're talking about making the visit to your website enjoyable, and by enjoyable we mean it's problem-free, it's easy, they can get through your website quickly, so they're not lost, they don't feel confused, they don't feel like you've snuck details behind them, and overall it's making them just this happy person, because a happy person is going to do what you want them to do. So to summarize your experience in a nutshell, it really is keeping things simple. Our site has an overall goal, and whatever we can do to make sure it's simple and easy for them to complete, that's what we want to be doing as part of user experience management. So whenever you're considering adding a page, changing a page, creating new content, removing it, you should always be considering, is this the simplest way of doing it? We want to make it, it's a cliche, keep it simple, stupid, but actually that's really what we have to do. Because often we work with our businesses a lot and we get a little bit carried away with sometimes assuming that everybody knows what we're talking about. But we need to make sure that everybody can understand possibly what we do, what we offer, and how we can make them complete what we want them to. And a great example is this. I'm sure you've bought a laptop, a microwave, a dishwasher, and you get this massive, absolutely giant user guide. How many people actually ever read the full manual? Nobody. Nobody does. Especially in today's society, we expect it to be like this, a very quick and easy 1, 2, 3 step process. And manufacturers, offline, they've noticed this. They include quick start guides where it's, maybe an A4 page. And they also include the real menu because it has to be there to facilitate the other people who don't want to get a quick start. So what we want to be doing is we want to be making sure that we're giving everyone the quick start guide, the easiest way possible to navigate to what they do. And this starts at the very top. And your business is going to have your business goals, your business objectives. And as part of that, as you all have a website, your website is going to have website objectives. Now, for the people selling stuff, it's going to be, I want to make money from my website. That's your website objective. Or it may be, I want to make money as a result of my website. You know, whatever it is, you have your website, it has a position, and you have a reason why you have this website. Now, that is at the very top of our pyramid when we're looking at our objectives. But making up the website has loads of our pages. And each one of these pages has a page goal. Now, this may be perhaps you have a range of products, so your product page goal is to sell this particular product. And again, that in turn is helping with the website objective of making my business money. Perhaps it's you want to get more people to contact you, your contact page. That is indirectly helping your website objective, which is to make me more money. And then within each page, even a page has sub-objectives. And these can be something like, on a product page, you'd have a buy button. You want people to be clicking this buy button because that in turn is helping towards the page objective of selling this product, which in turn is helping you make more money from your website. Another example might be getting a visitor to sign up for a free trial of one of your products. And again, that should be hopefully turning them into a paying visitor and eventually helping with your website goal of making more money. Perhaps it's just to provide more information on a product. You might not necessarily need to make a sale then and there, but you offer the information, and providing enough information is what's going to help your page goal and in turn your website goal. But why is this important to really grasp? And this really is a very important feature to understand. And the reason is priority. Often when we're designing our websites and we're putting things on there, we kind of just do what we think looks good or what's aesthetically pleasing or just kind of what you thought might be a good idea. But actually, priority is one of the most important things you can consider when designing and building your website. For instance, let's just go to the transactional website where we're going to sell products online. The main priority of any web page is to make them press that buy button. We want them to put that product in the bag and continue down our order process to make sure that they actually get the sale in. If we have for instance, give us your email address so we can email you, that's, in my opinion, that's a secondary objective. That's not the primary, that's a secondary objective. If we have this button that says give us your email address bigger than the buy now button, we're encouraging visitors to click and give us their email address more so than the primary objective. And therefore, we're going to be sabotaging our efforts in getting through and encouraging them to give us more money, which is at our top of our page goal. So we need to be considering this with everything that we do. So whenever we're building, whenever we're adding, whenever we're changing, ask ourselves, what is more important? And therefore, this should dictate what gets more prominence on the page. So how can we describe priority? How can we dictate priority on a website? And it starts with keeping things nice and clean. Clean is not like when you hoover your house. First, is there anyone from argent.net here? I always have to ask before I show this next slide. Well, that's good, perfect. You can see why. The laughter really explains it. I mean, it's fantastic that I can buy a helicopter, a hovercraft, and a chessboard on one website on an R2-D2 robot, which is exactly what I wanted from one place. But the reality is you're looking at this and think, what is this? I wouldn't know where to click. Instinctively, if I wanted to buy this self-inflating car jack, I'd probably click on that. But the reality is, you just don't know where you're looking at. And how am I, as a website visitor, new to this website, going to know where I should be clicking? Well, this is clutterful. There's no other word to describe it. It's cluttered. They've put everything on the home page. Maybe that works for them. Maybe they've tested this. But this looks cluttered. And if it's cluttered, it's confusing. You really, you feel lost looking at this page. And if it's confusing, the visitor, your website visitor, your potential future client is going to find it hard to understand what they're meant to do next. And if they find it hard, they're less likely to complete whatever goal or objective we set for them. So, I mean, clearly this is far too much. But there's a good argument. How do you know when too much is too much? Well, there's a very quick test you can do on your own websites as well, and we're going to do one here. It's called the blur test. You can quite easily see that's the Daily Mail online. But what I've done is to save everyone else squinting, and it's called the squint test. So on your own website, if you just literally squint at the web page, you should hopefully see something that resembles this. But with this, what we're doing is I've blurred it so everyone doesn't have to squint. But the idea is, when you look at it, when you squint at your website, what do you feel compelled to click on? Now, obviously, this isn't a transactional site. This is a service site where they want you to read their articles. You might be inclined to possibly click on maybe the big images, Or if you look at me, I personally would actually be clicking on these big pink bits because they stick out quite a lot. So what we can actually see is when we look at it, those are the big images associated with an article, and those are adverts. So in my opinion, M&S have done really well with their advert design here, and they stuck on something that's pretty clever, because I felt like I'd want to click on that 20% at the top. Maybe I would click on the images, but they don't appeal. You know, there's nothing that really stands out to say click here. So just to have a look at another site, we're going to use 123reg. So again, hopefully looking at this, you can actually feel a little bit more of an indication where you might want to click. Does anyone want to stab a guess?
99p.
The green and the 99p. And that's exactly what they are. You shouldn't be able to see that was 99p, but that's the idea. You know, those are the two areas that are clickable. That button in particular, that is the main call to action. That is exactly what we want you to be doing when you visit our page. So when you come here, yes, all right, perhaps you want to digest the unique selling points, you want to look at the price, but if you look, the only two things that are green on this page are buy personal mail now, and also our other key product that we want to sell throughout our whole website, which is the domain search at the top there. We've now also migrated the site and developed it a little bit more, and actually if you come back to our site with products in your basket, that basket button right next to the search bar, that also is green, because you've obviously put something in your basket, we want you to buy it, that's why it sticks out. And these are some of the things that we're going to talk about a little bit more in a bit depth, about how you can kind of control this squint testing. But write this down, you know, make sure you do go back and look at your websites, give it a quick squint, particularly on the home page. Your home page is purely for navigation. If you're trying to sell too many products on your home page, you're really wasting the true value of what a home page can do, because your product landing page is going to do a much better job of selling your products than your home page will do. So moving on, keeping things simple, and this is something that we're all guilty of. We all love our products, we all know our businesses, and sometimes we assume that everybody else understands what we do. And this is actually a general marketing technique. This is actually probably one of the fundamentals, that if you can grasp this concept, you'll dominate whatever you're trying to sell or do or complete. So for instance, what we're talking about is keeping it simple, is selling the benefit and not the feature, because features don't actually sell. Features are part and parcel of selling something, but it's not what makes someone buy. What makes someone buy is a benefit. And to give you a very quick example, many might say toothpaste, the Minty Fresh is the feature, or the benefit rather, but actually Minty Fresh is a feature. The benefit, and if you look at toothbrush adverts, and toothbrush magazine articles, is actually sexy kissable teeth, or lips, whichever one. And that really is it. If you look at a lot of their marketing, it's all about a sex appeal to do with fresh breath or something along those lines. Likewise, for a DJ, they don't sell their record collection size, because the record collection size doesn't mean much to anybody. If I tell you I have 50,000 records, what does that mean? You know, so what? And the answer is what I sell as a benefit, which is I sell you the most amazing day on your wedding day, for instance. And that's what a DJ sells. They sell the best experience you're going to have on your wedding day. So have a think about your products. How have you put them down on your website? Have you listed statistics about how many revs per minute the Hoover does? Or perhaps you said that you've done 50 months training as a masseuse. But actually, what does that translate to be as a benefit? Or just off the top of my head, that would mean I'm an experienced, so therefore you can relax knowing whatever your next sales line may be. We understand our businesses and our products, but often our visitors don't. And it's really important to make sure that we're talking in the eye of the visitor. And talking, exemplary terminology and onomastics. I'm sure you're all looking with a bit of a puzzled face, and that's exactly the point of what I wanted to achieve. Jargon is one of the worst things. It's something we're all so guilty of because we know our products. What we have to do is we have to treat customers as if they don't understand a thing. They don't know about our products. And some of you may start thinking, but hang on a minute, I've got a technical product. I sell boilers. How do we get around this? Well, there's a lot of research to suggest that if your customer is savvy on what they're buying, so they've done their research in advance, they're not going to read your marketing fluff. They're not going to read the nice poetic way of how you've told them how amazing this product is. They're going to skip to the important stats that they need to read. Whereas your newbie, the person who's perhaps even doing their research right now, and perhaps they have no idea really about what they're buying, what they're going to do is they're actually going to read the marketing. They're going to really read the content because they want to try and grasp the idea and everything they need to know about buying this particular product. If you think of a product, if I said go buy a washing machine, How many of you understand what the different RPM is and how important that is, and if it has this type of cycle? The reality is you're probably going to read the beginning text to understand why this unit might be suitable for you. But if you're a plumber, chances are you probably know what the difference is. You're not going to read any of it, and you're going to skip down to the very bottom where you can actually just read the statistics that you need to know. So for the beginner, why it's important to do this is because if your beginners are presented with so much information that they become overwhelmed, the chances are they're going to disappear from the page, and you've lost them. If you lose their attention, it's game over. They're not working towards your page goal. So when we are looking at this, we should be considering the consumer buying cycle. And the consumer buying cycle has 3 stages. The first stage is a solution search. So for instance, a 1, 2, 3 wedge, you'd be typing, I need a website. This is someone who has no idea about anything. They know they want a website. So they will go into Google and they will search, I need a website. Once they've done a little bit of reading, they'll perhaps understand that they need to buy web hosting. And this is stage 2, because they now know they need web hosting, so they need to search for the product. So they'll search web hosting. And after a couple of searches and a little bit more reading on a few other sites, they probably realize that they need 1, 2, 3 wedge. They wouldn't need anyone else because we're the best. But they'd Google 1, 2, 3 wedge. And this is now the most modern part of the consumer buyer cycle, more so than ever. Consumers are now Googling your brand name. And that's important to know because consumer reviews are now more important than they ever have been, along with social and other aspects. So considering these stages, you can design your website to orientate to account for each step. Perhaps you have a landing page, which is just about the general product. It's no stats, absolutely nothing, just the key facts they need to know about buying, the very basics, about why perhaps, and this is more about your benefit selling. Then perhaps you have inner pages, or you have a more info tab where you delve a bit deeper into some of the statistics, some of the figures, the facts, and the other feature aspects that are going to be important to those who know. Alongside, with all this text, we need to consider consistency. Now this slide I'm hoping might not have woke you up because it's not that scary or anything, but the idea is that consistency is key within a website, more so than ever. Because I'm sure if I said to you, go to eBay, you know how to use eBay because the search bar is always at the top left, contact details are always at the bottom. Consistency, not just across the web, but also on your website, is just as important than anything else. And the reason being is, if it's easy to navigate around, if you understand the website and you're familiar, and the menu doesn't keep changing from the top bar to a sidebar, it becomes easier to do everything. And if it's easier, they're able to find what they want quicker. And if they're able to find what they want quicker, they're able to understand the page and proceed what we want them to do next. And that's really important because, remember, the whole objective is to make this visitor's journey a bit easier. So when you're considering changing the page, actually finding some structure, some form of almost a template. And if you look at the 1, 2, 3 Reg website, you'll see our header is always the same, our footer is always the same. Perhaps we change the styling of the middle and the body and the content, but actually we use very similar elements. So a table on one page will be very similarly styled to another page. And that's important because not only does it reinforce our branding, it's about making things easy. And of course, making things easy is really what we are trying to do here. But when we say making things easy, what are we actually talking about? What is making it easy? And it has to be measurable, because if it's not measurable, making this easy, how do we know if we're succeeding? Well, it comes from calls to actions. Now, a call to action is the button. It is the form. It is the element that you are going to be tracking on your website to deem success. It's getting the website visitor to do what we want them to do. It's pressing the buy now button. It's giving us their email address. It could even be phoning you. And there are ways to even track the success of if someone's phoned you from your website and how they got there. So for these call to actions, they're going to be the main indicators of success. These are what we're going to be measuring closely to work out how well is my site doing, how easy is it. This is what I spend a lot of my time looking at. Literally understanding how many people saw this and then did this, because that's what we want to understand. And when we're doing all this optimization of our user experience, we need to understand what's working, what's not working. The problem is that too often people think if I just put loads of buy now buttons, people were going to click on them. The reality is what actually happens is we dilute it. This is just a very quick, brief website, doesn't obviously exist. But here we have 5 pages, so you've got one to click on the email, another call to action to get a discount at the top there, a sign up to become a member. You can even argue that download and play a call to actions, submit your email address for the newsletter 1, 2. Obviously, it's fictitious, and a site like this might exist. But the idea is that having too many, how are we going to know, and this goes back to priority, how are we going to know as a visitor what I should be doing? It should be made nice and clear. The reality is this page, we should probably get rid of all of those buttons. Maybe if we deem them essential, keep them as text links and just keep that big sign up in the middle, because by the looks of it, that's what we want to do from this page. So let's say we have to have 3 call to actions. We have a buy now button, a contact me button, and an email sign up form. So they're going to be competing. So how do we make sure that actually the buy now button is taking precedence over the email? Because obviously a buy now gets us the cash in the bag, and the email is kind of a long drawn nurturing process. So we have various ways that we can control the prominence of these buttons. First one is size. Some people think putting the biggest button around on the website, that is a great way, but if you make your button the size of a page, it's not quite going to work as well. Although I suppose most people will be clicking it if it is big. Green. Now the colouring is actually a really interesting psychology. We're going back to the Evian bottle. Remember, red sticks out, it's a danger, and that's exactly the same on web. If you have a buy now button that's red, subconsciously you're translating stop alert. That's often why back buttons are red, because they don't want you to press back, they want you to continue forward. And likewise green, because of a traffic light, is synonymous with going ahead and continuing. So therefore, that's why you'll see most of the buttons on our website are green buy now buttons. Now there might be an exception or two, and perhaps your website theme is green, and actually putting a green button would look a little bit overwhelming. In which case, try a different colour. And I can't tell you what the right colour is. This is something that you're going to have to try and test. And that's where it goes back to KPI monitoring. So when you change your button over, you have a little look, how did it compare to your previous time? Wording. Wording is really important. You can have a hard sell. For instance, on a buy button, it would be buy now. The word buy now is a pretty hard, you're telling them exactly what they're doing, and that's that. You could have a soft sell. So a soft sell would be something along the lines of add to basket, continue, something along those lines. And likewise, you can have a directional, which means it would be something like pay now. And this is telling them exactly what's going to happen next, but not altogether. And again, this is something that you're going to have to play with. You're going to have to experiment with, because it varies from industry to industry or even company to company based upon your language that you use on the website. And finally, and this is something that you'll see more prevalent ever more so than ever, is spacing. White spacing is this area, like you can see at the middle here. We can see how there's nothing around it, there's nothing surrounding it, nothing cluttering it up. The complete opposite of Arjun's website. And that, to me, sticks out as the main call to action on the page because there's nothing around it. It's given prominence. eBay have just recently updated their website, I think a couple of weeks back. And if you look at the white space they give around the buy now buttons and the pay now buttons, it's more than it's ever been before. Usually they used to tuck them away, not tuck them away, but kind of put the postage time and everything around that. They've now spaced that out. And likewise, that's white space is one of the biggest success that you can have. If you had a red button with loads of white space around it, you're going to be drawn to attention. Speaking of red buttons, along with UX, we want to make sure that we don't have any interruptions. And interruptions are some of the worst things that you can do, and we're all guilty of it. It takes a bit of trial and error to realize what an interruption is. But when a visitor is processing down an order process, the worst thing we can do is stop them from continuing. If you look at any good retailer, Next, Amazon, River Island, they're all great. They all have some great UX websites. They're worth checking out. But if you look as you go to pay, all of a sudden the site comes a bit empty and bland. eBay as well do it. They've taken out most of the things that you can click on, most of the links at the bottom, most of the links at the side. Some even don't even have a menu anymore, and that's actually more common now than ever. And what they're doing here is they're saying, I don't want you to go anywhere else. I don't want you to look at other pages. I want you to get the sale in for me. Likewise, if we talk about a service, that would be along the lines of perhaps you have a form for them to fill in. Don't make them check all the boxes to say what they're interested in and what they're not interested in. Just get the name, number, and a submit button. Because you can ask them all the questions that you need to ask later. Why make it harder on yourself and give them interruptions of asking questions that can be just done on the phone? You may argue that actually you want to filter out work that's not in your field. That's fine, But generally, just get the name and contact number and give them a call and then ask the questions, because perhaps you might not want to take the business on, but perhaps you've got a referral you want to send it to. There's all these options that we want to look at that stop the interruption. Obviously, one of the most important things is on the payment page. If you've seen on PayPal, PayPal's page literally has one button. The only other thing is at the very, very bottom left. You can't even click their logo. In the top left-hand corner, it's kind of, if I said to you, take me to the home page of any website, you normally click the logo in the top left. PayPal don't even let you do that on their payment page. They have one button that says pay now and a text link saying cancel. That is it. And that's something that you can be doing, because that is forcing the people to go down the goal. So once we have all these interruptions and objections and the button prominence all sorted, you've done most of your UX work, but actually there's a bit more that you're going to need to do, because often there's objections. An objection could be, how much is postage? Objection could be, will this work with this product? There's various objections that you can have. And for instance, if we think about salesmen, a car salesman, for instance, a car salesman has the ability to interact with you and gauge your responses. And they'll say something along the lines of, a customer will say something along the lines of, I can't afford this. Well, the salesman will come back with saying, well, that's fine, we have payment plans for months and years, what's suitable? Whereas the problem is that we don't have that as a website. A website is itself, it doesn't have anything else. So you, as the website owner, need to overcome these objections. The problem is that your website can't hear these objections, so you need to be preempting them. These can be addressed directly, they can be done in the product, for instance. In the product page description, you may include, this works with XYZ products. This could be just explaining what you're talking about a little bit better. It could be adding a frequently asked questions. That's a really good and common thing that you see on a website. They say, here's all the questions that we've been asked before, and include all the information. When will it be delivered? All these other sorts. And you want to make sure that you think of everything. And the reason why is because you adding one extra question won't make a difference to your website, but to that one person who needed that one question answered, and a popular one for a retail site would be, when's your shipping cutoff? If I want it next day, if I order at 12 o'clock, will I get it on tomorrow, or does it mean if I've got to wait till 2 days' time because your shipping cutoff? These little bits of details, you need to really, really have a good think. And a great way of doing this is asking someone who hasn't ever bought your product, perhaps doesn't understand your product, what would you be curious about knowing if you were trying to buy my product? Write everything down, get in a nice frequently asked questions. And this kind of leads me on to the next aspect, which is providing enough information. Your visitor may be just one answer away from making that sale. They have this one question that they might have to call you for, but as we've talked about, we're talking about making this easy. A lot of people like to keep their transactions online only. So if we're then forcing them to call us to ask us a question, that's not necessarily the best way of user experience for your website. So perhaps they're just that one piece of information away. So what we need to do is, again, make sure that we've got everything covered. It could be a question of, do I need a professional to fit it, or can I fit it myself? Will you come to me, or do I have to come to your location? Frequently asked questions normally will cover all of this. Remember that you work with your product a lot, and your customers don't. So a question that you think silly is probably that, or possibly that one question that keeps them away. But perhaps there is finally that aspect that you didn't include on your website and that someone needs to know. You need to be easy to contact in both traditional and modern media and social media. So, if I ask you to think about a website that you've been on and you wanted to call somebody, the number wasn't on the page, where'd you look? Chances are you look in the top right or the bottom left, bottom right as well. Because this is where we associate the contact details. Likewise, your site should have this there, as well as all the contact details that you have. And some of you might say, well, my business is online only, I don't want people to call me. That's fine. But what we're saying is make sure it's accessible, because the worst thing you can do is keep your details hidden. More so than ever before, it's becoming, where a website needs to not necessarily be as faceless as possible. If you can only answer email, that's fine, but make sure your email address is everywhere. Headers, footers, but also another aspect to consider is that you may take your online goals, such as making a purchase, making a sale, offline. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just another way of doing your business. Now, this is one of the biggest aspects of user experience, trust elements. I'd say this has become possibly the most important in the past couple of years, given the rise in constant fraud and problems that we're having online. There are various ways that you can encourage trust on your website, and trust is really what you need to build for someone to buy from you. Some of the aspects that you can consider as a trust element are things like awards and endorsements. So if you've got a relevant, recent, there's no point putting something back from 1994 in your awards section, because it's probably a little bit dated, unless you've won every award since 1994. But anything which might be valuable, and again, it's not going to be important to everybody, but it might be important to that one person who wants some form of reiteration that you are the person to go to. So just include them, and it doesn't have to be on your homepage, it can be an About Us page or anything else. Likewise, suppliers. So perhaps you have some great hardware technology, or perhaps you use the best cleaning fluids, or you buy whatever it is, the best massage oil, anything like that. Those are the kind of stuff that you want to be mentioning as well. Likewise, if you're fortunate enough to have some big clients, if you've got any of these, that'd be fantastic. But excuse me, If you've got any big clients at all, or even just notable or local clients, those are the type of people that you want to be included on your About Us page. And then finally, something that perhaps you might not have thought of is common elements. I'm sure you've seen these on so many web pages, they're everywhere. And the reason is this goes back to consistency. There is research to suggest that if you see this on a website, you naturally affiliate a bit more trust. Even though everybody's got them on the website and it's not even vetted, just seeing that familiarity increases your trust. But the biggest trust element, and the one that's probably going to have the most impact out of everything we talk about here today, is reviews. Testimonials and reviews. Every single one of you can get a testimonial and review. You just have to ask. After every sale, ask for a review, some feedback. It could be a single email, it could be a phone call. Or you could use some of the technologies that exist. There are some tools, there are some independent sites, and there are some self-hosted sites. But the truth is that if you've done a great service, they're going to give you a happy review. If you haven't done a great service, they're going to give you some critical feedback. So just don't be shy to think, oh, I don't want to hear what people have to say. Because the truth is, without listening, you're not going to grow any further. But then when you have these, assuming that they're all good, or mostly good, you can start putting these on your websites. And if they let you put the company name and even a name associated with the person who gave it to you, you're building even more credibility. Little tip is if you can get their photo, you'll blow it out the water. Photos, even if it's not really them, are said to kind of really add some credibility to the trust and review. So just to give you an example, a couple of tools that you can use, there's Trustpilot, Kelcool, Review Center. There's various, if you just type in reviews, I'm sure they'll come up top. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, some of them you can monitor yourself and edit, some of them you can't. So have a look at these and really kind of have a think about how you can exploit using testimonials. Considered to be at the very pinnacle, depending upon what you sell, is a video testimonial. If you can get some video testimonials that say how great you are, the reason is that it's very hard to fake a video testimonial. You can fill in an online form, you can write your own fake review if you want to, but to get a genuine video testimonial is really hard. So consider getting some of those. Now, some of the tools that I encounter on my day-to-day job, there's one which is not because I'm in this building, but actually probably the most important tool I use maybe 60% of my time, and that is Google Analytics. If you haven't got Google Analytics, get it. It's free. And it will tell you information you wouldn't believe possible. Recent updates mean they can now tell you the gender of people who are visiting your website, the age, what they looked at, what they did, how many times they came back, and just as importantly, how they got there. What keywords did they use when they were looking for you? Like I said, it's free, and it's one of the most useful tools that you'll get. This is also how I start measuring the KPIs. So we talked about how we're making these changes to the website. I'm looking at these through Google Analytics, as well as how do they come to my website. And I'm tying up, perhaps I see everyone who comes from Google seems to be buying more than those who came from a direct visit. We can look at this, exploit it. And another tool from Google, not necessarily a tool, but it's a concept that's worth understanding. It's something called the Google F pattern. Now, what you see here is a Google search result. And on top of that is some nice colors and some X's. The X's represent where someone clicked, and that color represents where someone looked with their eyes. So this is done with special technology, which watches where people's eyes move. And what we can see is it's called the F pattern, because if you can kind of roughly make out, it's about an F shape. And what that means is the top left area is the most important aspect of your web page. So you need to put whatever is most important about your product or service in that top left-hand side of every page. It could be your products or sales pitch USPs. Perhaps you're selling dresses or other fashion items. You need to put your picture to the top left because your picture is what's going to sell. Whatever you deem the most important aspect needs to be in the top left-hand side of your web page. So let's say you've got all these tools, you've got all these ideas. How do you know what's actually working? And this is something called user testing. Now, user testing can be as basic as asking a friend or family to sit down with you, say, here's my website, shout out the first things that come into your mind instantly, no filters, just tell me everything you want. And that's a really great quick test. It'd be better if they don't know anything about your business, because then you're going to get a little bit more of a true result. But the idea is you want to kind of understand how people feel about your website. Do you feel trustworthy? What feelings does the site emote? If perhaps you're selling a professional accountancy service, and you've got a bright pink background, and it's kind of a bit cartoon-like, they're going to say it makes me feel happy and funny. It's probably the wrong mismatch of design. So you'll be amazed at what people pick up. They may pick up some of the most odd things, like I don't like the color of this button. you might want to ask questions like, what do you think I'm trying to sell you here? And they may say, I think it's absolutely hideous, I don't like it. But it's important to remember, that's their opinion. As this quite rightly shows, what do you think of this? Some people won't even tell you the truth. And that's why sometimes using perhaps someone you don't know is a great example, because sometimes our family and friends can be a little bit too nice when we want the honest truth. We want them to try and go through things. Now, there are tools. Perhaps you're thinking, well, how do I find these people? There's various websites. If you Google user testing, there'll be plenty of tools and technologies where you can literally give someone a host of questions and they'll go on your website and fill it out. So you say, I'm a plumber, tell me how you get in contact with me. And what it does, it films their screen, you can see their mouse, and they're talking to you, animating and describing what they're feeling. So they say, oh, I don't know where I'm meant to click on this page. And it's a really great way for you to understand something about your website that perhaps you wouldn't have got otherwise. So user testing is a real important thing, and it's something we do a lot of at 123Rich, and the results you can get really can make or break significantly. And that does pretty much bring me around. So I'm going to just give a very quick recap on everything we've talked about. We've talked about user experience and why it's important. We've talked about keeping it clean. Remember, we saw Arjun's website. We want to make sure we're never doing that, making sure we've got nice spacing, keeping it simple, of course, talking in a language that people understand, talking about the goals and objections. Now, remember, this is very important, thinking about the priority. And I'll leave this up there as well so you can have a quick scribble down. Look at the priority of what we want people to do from our website, keeping things jargon-free at the very beginning stages, and then, of course, including that technical aspect, which is important. Consistency, make your website nice, easy, clear, it's just as important. And your calls to action, again, this is what you're measuring as part of your success. Interruptions and how making sure that we're doing whatever we can just to stop these interruptions coming through. And, of course, overcoming the objections if anything does pop up. Finally, including your contact details and elements of trust. And then, of course, specifically looking at testimonials and reviews. The tools, Google Analytics and the F pattern. Finally, user testing. And I'll just leave it up there because I can see a few of you scribbling down. Just wondered if anyone had any questions. Nope, if not. Well, in that case, that's just about everything. And remember, just keep your website nice and simple. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Barney. I think this subject is just absolutely fascinating to me, and I remember just last year actually being at Google, ironically's head office in the States, talking to an executive there, and please don't quote me verbatim on the numbers here, but he told me that they tried something on one particular product, something like 200 different shades of blue, and that turned the dial by something close to $200 million in product sales, just by a simple color change to a different shade. So that testing, multivariant testing, user testing, all the points Barney's just gone through, I can't stress enough how important they are to your websites. So you'll be relieved to hear we're nearly at lunch. Just before we break for lunch, a couple of quick points. In the room, just everyone that's 123 and Host Europe group, can you stand up for me just so that we know who we've got here? So amongst the team, we've got Joao Albuquerque over there on the left, who takes care of all our video footage. And we've got our placement student Hannah Wadham's in the marketing team just there. We've got Bhavisha Patel that takes care of all our marketing comms. Callum Newton from our support team in one of our contact centres that's based in Nottingham, actually. Callum's our employee of the year, and he's someone you'll talk to on the phones when you call in. So all your support questions, he'll definitely be able to answer. Got Tim Fuel at the back, our blog writer with us. Then, of course, we've got Karen Heaven, our UK marketing director. Nick, who we've introduced already, myself, and wherever he's gone, Barney at the back there. So please do come and chat with us. Don't forget that Twitter hashtag if you want to talk amongst your peers and network in true Stefan style. It's hashtag GTH123. And we'll be back at 1 o'clock with Richard Robinson, who's the director for B2B markets at Google, who's going to finish us up with the final hour, and certainly will be a very, very interesting presentation. Food's over there on your left, so tuck on in and help yourself. And through that door in the corner, you'll find a cafe and some areas to relax. And toilets are behind us. Thank you.